In this video, I'll be discussing my experience with the BF5 Alpha since my brother was lucky enough to get in. Overall, the BF5 Alpha was solid due to its interesting gunplay and the new attrition system they added. Also, they didn't improve upon the conquest system, and I'll be discussing this later on in the video. To begin, I'll be discussing one of the easier topics, and that's the new attrition system. I feel that this new system improves this game and the Battlefield franchise as a whole because it encourages people to stick with their squad and team due to having limited ammo and unforgiving health regen. Also, with this system, I could easily see it easily, sorry, I can't talk today, solving one of the biggest issues with Battlefield, and that issue is players going too far in obscure locations of the map and not helping their team by doing so. You know, Tuscan Raiders, or as some might know, snipers who camp on hilltops. Anyways, another reason why I'm happy about this new attrition system is that it will help make Battlefield a more skillful game. The reason I say this is because you'll have to be with your teammates so that you can get ammo and health, instead of just running around and getting many kills as possible, which I will admit is one of the problems with the Battlefield franchise, well, not Battlefield franchise, but in the more recent Battlefield games, going back to Bad Company 2 and probably maybe Bad Company 1. I haven't played it. But the downside to this system is that Battlefield teammates are notorious for not giving you ammo and health when you need it. However, this didn't seem to be too big of an issue for me during my 1 hour of playtime, but I could easily see how this could become an issue if health and ammo stations aren't placed frequently throughout the map. Now I'll be discussing the elephant in the room, gunplay. Keep in mind, what I say is my opinion. If you disagree with me, that's perfectly fine. The weapons in the BF5 Alpha weren't as bad as I thought they were going to be. Before I played this Alpha, my biggest concern with this game was how the developers were going to use recoil as a balancing factor, or use recoil as more of a balancing factor over spread. And I still feel that this style of balance is horrible for reasons which I discussed in my previous Battlefield 5 video. If you want, you can go and check it out and you could see what I was talking about. But even though I don't agree with this philosophy of balance, I will admit the guns of BF5 are more satisfying to use than BF1 or BF4 due to the fact they have to compensate for recoil, when in BF1 and BF4 you really didn't have to do that. However, not having spread in Battlefield, well, the guns still have spread, but it's significantly reduced. I feel, yes, it somewhat works. I still would have preferred it if they brought it back, and I feel like it would have made this game just a bit more interesting, and add a bit more of add a bit more skill to the weapons and make it so players who are good get rewarded instead of just players learn how to pull a mouse down at the proper intervals. But then again, if you look at a lot of first-person shooters, they don't have good on-paper balance. For example, look at MW2. That game is horribly unbalanced, but many people still play it because of, at least to my knowledge, somebody can correct me down in the comments, due to the overpowered weapons. And I have a feeling that this relates to Battlefield 5 because even though spread would make the guns more balanced, adding more spread would make the guns more balanced, but the game is still fun and enjoyable to use, and not as easy as I thought it would be. So therefore, if you want the short end, yes, I was somewhat wrong about what I thought about Battlefield 5, and the gunplay is enjoyable. However, one thing that can't go unnoticed and that I just can't tolerate is the Gewehr 43, and how it's basically a laser because the thing is low recoil, and yes, there's a high bullet drop and muzzle velocity, but they said that the medic weapons in Battlefield 5, that they weren't going to have any spread increase, and so that's why I think this thing's a laser, and I would like to discuss that. Why did they get rid of spread increase for the SLRs? That was one of the most interesting thing about the SLRs in BF1 was their spread increase, because you had to learn a rhythm. You had to get used to the weapon, learn how to click it, and it rewarded players who understood the ins and outs of their weapon and who knew how to click at the right intervals. But now this pretty much rewards people just spam firing the mouse, and it's ridiculous. This isn't skillful, at least from the way I see it, and I think personally they should bring back spread increase, and if they want to, they can make the spread increase 0.1 instead of 0.5 as it was in BF1. Personally, I like them to keep it the same, but, That's just my opinions, and I understand nobody feels the same way as I do about this. But anyways, I'll show some footage, or maybe some clips, depending on, you know, what I have, showing you proof that this thing is kind of ridiculous. I mean, yes, the bullet drop muzzle velocity does hamper it, but it's pretty ridiculous in pretty much anything like 0 to 16 meters about. But anyways, enough of my rambling. I'll go ahead and show you guys some clips or some footage.
Objective Fox taken.
Hold on to it!
So yeah, as you can see, the Gavera 43 is kind of ridiculous, and I think they should nerf it in some way by either adding spread increase, which they probably won't because that's one of the core principles of the medic weapons, or they could increase the recoil significantly, maybe something to like the STG-44, or they got horizontal recoil. Just generally add more recoil, make it harder to use, so you can't use it at 70 meters and basically be a ghetto sniper. Now, the conquest system, I will admit, that's the one saving grace for me about this game. Even though I don't like the gunplay, mostly, well, I like it, it's just, you know, not my preferred type, but the conquest system, if there's something else bad, that will be the saving grace for this game, because they brought back the BF4 conquest system, which I'm so glad about, because that's why I've been wanting ever since they put that stupid conquest system into BF1, where it's basically about which team can get to the most objective first wins. But instead now, it's kind of like a tug of war, and, well, it's a tug of war, meaning where you have to go ahead and fight. You have to capture the objectives, and you have to hold them, and it's a continuous fight. And a lot of times I have close games where there's only a 200 ticket difference between the enemy team and the friendly team, which is what I want. I would also mention a few things that I've heard about the alpha from my brother, and he said that the game is more punishing because of the faster TTK, which I will agree with, but it's also kind of a good thing because it allows you to more easily realize the errors or mistakes you made in a gunfight, which I would say is also true. So I would like to note that, and also this game is a very fast time to kill due to the significantly reduced spread. So just keep that in mind. If you don't like high time to kill games, you know, you probably won't want to pick this up, but this is just an alpha. They could change it. Now, I would probably prefer if they made it something like BF4 style of time to kill, like maybe they made the damage model like Bad Company 2. That's just a possible suggestion. But anyways, enough of my rambling. I'd also like to mention that there were some performance issues in the alpha on my brother's system because he has an i5 and a GTX 1080, not 1080, I mean 980, sorry, where the CPU was pinning at 100%. It does the same thing in BF1. It would be nice if somebody at DICE was listening to this could fix it. I did find, however, that when I set the CPU priority to high, it did somewhat fix the issue, but I thought I'd just go ahead and note that for people who might have i5s, because when this game's released, there might be issues, but again, it's an alpha. There's expected to be issues, but hopefully DICE will fix that. Overall, Battlefield 5 is a good game, and so far from the alpha, it seems like one of probably the best shooters that I've ever played, right next up to BF4 and Doom 2016, and maybe even Half-Life, because of the fun and interesting gunplay, and how they're putting more of an emphasis on teamwork, because my biggest problem with previous Battlefield games was that there wasn't enough of an emphasis on teamwork, and it almost felt pointless. But anyways, guys, hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to rate, comment, subscribe, stay tuned for more of that content.